Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring Sensualizer. Sensualizer in the bottom right corner playing the red Protoss, and in the top left we have Joshua playing our blue Terran. Both players are in gold. We are on Ohana, and I believe this is a ladder match. Yeah. So Joshua playing Terran on Ohana, he's going to want to abuse some of the cliffs, that especially the one leading from the fourth up into the main, as well as how exposed the natural can be with all this area behind the mineral lines, especially the third. The third has so much open air that can just be absolutely abused by the medevacs. Get in there, just wipe out a mineral line, and then get out really, really quickly. Conversely, Sensualizer is going to want to protect his mineral line as much as possible. Approach quickly to that death ball. Tech very, very fast, and hopefully just protect his two bases. See if he can make something happen on two, and if he decides to push out to a third, or actually just do a death ball attack, has to be very careful not to lose his army all in one go. Sensualizer's placing that pylon up in the main, meaning that he's probably going to be favoring a one-based approach or a very cautious expand timing. That gateway could better be used down in the natural expand area, because this wall, this ramp is actually so very small that you can actually wall it off pretty easily. Oh, look at that mini-map. Poor little probe getting surrounded by the SCVs. Totally taken out. Joshua is not taking Sensualizer's crap. He's telling him that scouting is completely forbidden. And he's not taking any gas either. So no early gas out of Joshua, but the Sensualizer is grabbing his first assimilator and gateway. Not 100% for tech purposes, just wants to get that gateway out so that it can be a warp gate and quickly reinforce his army. Both players have enough money right now, probably going to be thinking about moving out, taking an expansion eventually. Cybernex core for Sensualizers going up. Some really good scouting by Joshua, double checking that that pylon wasn't placed behind the mineral lines. Any shenanigans there? Also might want to check down here, unless he had a very careful eye on that probe the entire time. No forge out of Sensualizer though, so none of those shenanigans are on the horizon. He's playing it pretty close to the chest, getting that Cybernex core up, and it looks like Joshua's floating enough money to take his own expansion. So there goes the CC, taking a look-see, and just going for that one racks fast expand. Good on you, Joshua. Good on you. Don't think Sensualizer's going to be in any position himself to do any aggression. He sends out that single zealot, but it's not going to do much, even if it makes it to the front door with a bunker going up and a couple of Marines already out. That zealot, even if it's backed by that stalker, isn't going to be very effective at denying the expansion. Another gateway going down though, and the chrono boost not being spent on the Cybernex core's warp gate upgrade. I think he's just using them for probes. I kind of want to stick around and find out, but I also don't want to miss the units moving out. What a conundrum. There goes on a sentry. 3 Marines kind of poke in, find the single zealot, probe, and stalker mix. All of these guys are going to get pushed back. Will they make it? Oh, that guy taking one more hit. Oh, he's got plenty of health left though, and once they get to the bunker, it looks like the probe's going to use the sacrificial zealot to scoot in behind. The stalker takes a little bit of hull damage, but succeeds in pulling back before taking out, and a pylon gets placed behind the enemy lines. No forge getting thrown down. It's a robo and a gateway. But warp gate is almost done, so that pylon could be useful. I think Sensualizer's just throwing it down there so that maybe if he gets a forge later, he could do some harassment. Maybe he intends on throwing down a pylon on the low ground and warping stuff in. But no, the probe gets scouted by the Marines, and with that, Joshua knows that something was maybe going on the right side of his base, and he takes down that pylon. Sensualizer is floating enough money to make his own expansion. He sends down that probe, and there it goes. That's really good. Sensualizer doesn't want to be stuck on one base, especially if Joshua has his own. It looks like he's heading towards a robotics facility, though. I hope maybe they'll get a robo bay or the support facility so that he can get some colossi out, but it looks like it's 2 observers for now. Another pylon being placed down with the third. Sensualizer's definitely attempting to keep Joshua contained. There goes the robotics bay. Several bunkers though, so even though Joshua is contained, he's also very secure. Doesn't really have to worry about any aggression coming out of Sensualizer just yet. Pretty much the only standing force is single sentry. I thought maybe he had a stalker out still, but it looks like it was cleaned up by a marine or two. The probe flirting around is probably going to set up another pylon, maybe behind the mineral line, make it so it's harder to scout if it's behind the mineral line. This one is basically just praying that whoever decides to take out these rocks and build an expansion here is completely blind. 2 gas being grabbed for Joshua, though. It looks like he's going to be heading towards some tech of some sort. There goes the reactor down on the first barracks, so a heavy ground-based play. A tech lab on the second barracks, as well as 2 engineering bays for Joshua. So he's definitely going to be utilizing the Marines to the fullest, get those combat shields and stim on the way. An idle observer on Sensualizer, not using his observers to the fullest. He needs to get those out there in the open field and get some good scouting done. Where is the second one? I know he had 2 lined up. There it goes, heading off into the main base. An excellent choice. Yeah, and he's going to see that there's quite a lot of add-ons being added to the barracks. Tech lab just now starting on STEM, probably the other tech lab that's being built. This one's going to be used for combat shields for the Marines, and these 2 engineering bays probably for the 1-1. Good choice by Joshua, good tech path. Sensualizer's getting the appropriate choice against that tech path is the Colossus. Their AoE against Marines do quite a lot of damage, but only when supported by a decent number of ground units, and with that one base just now getting saturated, there's probably not going to be enough money to get up the unit composition that Colossus desire. Definitely need more probes, a lot more gas. These 2 geysers need to be taken as soon as possible. Even with the 1 bay floating out Colossus, you need to have more ground units, specifically zealots to tank damage, or sentries to throw down a lot of force fields to hold the Marines, either split them in half or hold them from retreating. What we don't see out of Joshua are any starports just yet. Starports can really increase the mobility of his ground force, specifically with medevacs, and they can also produce Vikings with their reactors to take out those Colossus. So in this matchup, incredibly helpful, and something that I expect Joshua is going to get very shortly. 2 forges coming down for Sensualizer, an excellent choice there. I'm glad that I clicked that one and not that one. It's a lucky guess. 2 forges for Sensualizer is going to be catching up with those upgrades. 1-1 almost just got started for Joshua, but he's still significantly faster than Sensualizer, and Sensualizer is going to have to spend a lot of chrono to catch up with those upgrades. But if he does, then yeah, he's going to be in pretty good shape. That observer sees all, knows all. Couple supply drops, and the factory just now being built for Joshua. Maybe he'll decide to get some siege tanks out. It looks like he's building a starport with a reactor right by it from the factory. Another starport being built in the top left corner. 3 in total. Where is the third? Here is our third. As well as a Ghost Academy and an Armory. Armory for those superior upgrades. Ghost Academy for that superior EMP. And the plethora of starports for that superior airspace. Vikings, like I said, incredibly helpful in this matchup. Against those Colossus, we see 3 of them are out on the field right now, but there's nothing to support them. 2 Zealots, and 2 Stalkers, and 1 Sentry. Nothing to support those Colossi. So even though they're going to be able to rain down the damage and bring the pain, they're not going to be able to take any damage, and they're going to fall very, very quickly to stemmed Marines and stemmed Marauders. 4 Colossi now. However, Sensualizer's got a lot of money. He can probably afford to throw down another 4 or 5 gateways and then just max produce zealots off of them. His limiting factor currently is his gas. Even though he's mining off of 4 geysers, he's really not getting enough gas to constantly produce those Colossi, which is what he wants. Unit composition for Joshua is looking pretty intimidating, though. It's quite a ball of death that he has. It's not supported by medevacs. They're just now coming out, but they're being mass produced off of 3 starports, and all of them have reactors. And once they all kick into high gear, I'm going to see a huge swell of either Vikings or medevacs. Probably medevacs first, as Vikings won't be necessary until Joshua notices all of the Colossi on the field. Templar Archive being built for Sensualizer. Templar Archive, very nice choice. Archons, such high damage per seconds, or DPS. And that storm is just absolutely devastating to Marines. And then their feedback is very good against medevacs. So all around, High Templar is a pretty good choice. They are also gas heavy though, and I don't think Sensualizer is going to be able to afford to get the number out that he needs without taking down these destructible rocks and taking a third at least. Still has a pretty sizable army though. It looks like he's getting Immortals out now. I expect to see significantly larger amount of Zealots or a couple more Sentries, even though they cost quite a bit of gas. Sentries can be pretty useful, especially against the big ball of bio units that Joshua is fielding, just because they kind of limit the opportunity that those stemmed Marines have to retreat, even though they're so fast. Medevac coming in though, and speaking of increased mobility, an excellent place. Stalker sees it, does a little bit of damage. Joshua knows that he's not going to be able to do any surprise damage to the main or the natural, so he drops his units, takes them out, and retreats very quickly as the Colossi come in just to clean it up. That medevac hopefully is going to get away. It looks like he's going to be just fine. Oh, a nice warp in of Zealots, so their Zealots are not going to be able to do any damage to the medevac, but they will be able to just keep an eye on it, make sure that it stays a healthy distance from the natural. Or the third, it looks like maybe he's going to be thinking about a third. That's not a pylon, that's a Colossus. That's stupid. The drop once again, dropping down to take down that pylon. Looks like they're moving north to take down the other pylon. Those Zealots which were in the area are now reinforced by 5 Stalkers, a much better choice. Targeting down that medevac. Now that the medevacs cut down, the 2 Marauders and 3 or 4 Marines aren't going to be able to retreat from this pretty devastating attack. So that drop is completely cleared up. Sensualizer is going to be moving off into the third. What are our upgrades? 1-1 against 2-2? No, 1-1. The 2-2 has been started for Sensualizer, though. He's definitely caught up. There goes the Colossus, the first one falling almost instantly to the Vikings. Quite a lot of Vikings on the field. These Colossus, oh, they're moving forward. They're not attacking at all. They go down almost instantly. The range has not been upgraded either for those Colossi, so their ability to engage that force really weakened. There we saw some force fields preventing Joshua from engaging, but as soon as they faded, he moves down and completely clears up Sensualizer. That was an absolutely devastating attack. Look at that. 69 to 34 resources lost, really heavily in Joshua's favor, and as a plus side he keeps his third, which he's just now getting saturated, using the opportunity to re-macro rather than take another expansion. At the same time, Sensualizer is definitely feeling the heat. He needs to move out. He needs to either do some damage or take another expansion, and he's opting to take another expansion. But with the destructible debris still in place, Sensualizer is going to be very slow to respond to any aggression coming out of Joshua, and that's exactly what we see. Scan coming down in the natural as he moves out. What a fleet of Vikings. They're going to be able to absolutely destroy the number of Colossus on the field, but it looks like Sensualizer is moving away from that. His robotics facility is standing completely idle at the time, not doing anything, and he's just waiting for a cooldown. He's got quite a lot of money not being spent, a lot of gas he could be spending on higher tiered units, but that robotics bay is currently just standing by. What Joshua is missing is medevacs. He's only got 3, needs probably twice that much. It's because he can only lift off half of his army, and even though this drop is going to be very effective at doing a lot of damage, it's not going to be very effective since half of his army couldn't follow behind. It looks like Joshua is kiting that main army by Sensualizer back. At the same time, Joshua trying to run his men into the main, but just having them run, he's not attacking. They're taking such massive damage. At the same time, it looks like Joshua has picked up his units. These were all 100% full. Now we're down to only 1 full medevac, dropping them back into the natural, cleaning up some of those Zealots, but the Colossus catching up, as is the rest of Sensualizer's army. Joshua's going to have to retreat, lifting off his Vikings, even though he'd landed them to add some of the damage per second, picking off that Colossus, which makes this attack not a total wash, but taking some massive hits from those Archons as they fly past. A Ghost has been added into the mix. He does not have enough energy, probably already EMP'd the enemies. He had 250, 350 for the Archon, so he did get a good EMP off on the Archon there. But that attack definitely suffered from the lack of medevacs, with the lack of Joshua being able to do a true Doom drop, and also having his units on the move command into the main. The command center was built off in the third, just prepping to take a fourth, and Joshua just moves back into a superior position. Even though he lost quite a bit, the resources lost tab still heavily in his favor, 86 to 77. Wow, what a ridiculous a number of probes that Sensualizer has in that third. He's only mining base right now. Wow, this natural is not saturated at all, just now getting 5-6 probes in there, but you can see the massive number difference, even though the harvester count is actually pretty close. The 66 to 77 is offset, of course, by the mules that the Terrans afforded. But finally, Sensualizer realizing that he's so oversaturated, pulling his units back. He's not mining any gas right now, which is what he desperately needs, is those higher tech units to answer back to the AoE that Joshua has just a massive advantage for. Yeah, that made sense. Plenty of Vikings still on the field, though. Has to worry about those Colossus. You know, Joshua really, Sensualizer can't really afford to bring his Colossi out into the middle of the field because A, they don't have range. They don't have range, right? I'm not just making that up. No, they do not. They don't have range, and B, they're incredibly exposed to those Vikings, and there's not a lot of AoE or anti-air on the ground for Sensualizers. But he's got to make something happen. He can't let this fourth stay up for Joshua, because he's going to be mining off of 2 bases to the one that Sensualizer had. He's finally got that saturation fixed. Some idle guys right there, no big deal. Charge lot has been done, as is the 2-2, 3-3 almost finishing for Sensualizer, and I think we are on 2-2 or 2-1 for Joshua, who has a max army moving out. Again, not a huge number of medevacs, but a significantly larger force now, probably the correct number. I'm a pretty poor judge of that. Oh, some zealots have made it into the probe line, but it's only one. He's going to get cleaned up almost instantly. And Sensualizer taking that as his moment to strike. He's approaching max. 3-3 is just now finishing. This is the perfect time for him to attack, but probably not the unit composition that's going to do him any damage. He's missing that key upgrade for the Colossi range. He gets one shot off before picked off by those Vikings. Again, some good hits from the Colossus, doing quite a lot of damage. The Zealots charging in, this Colossus deciding to make a new life off in Kentucky by totally abandoning the fight at all. Joshua just keeping all of his very delicate Marines in tip-top shape by the constant healing from the medevacs, while that guy has 3 health left. The Colossus has managed to find his way into the mineral line, doing quite a lot of damage, 15 kills before being picked off. An excellent use of that Colossus. That attack was doomed to die from the beginning, and forcing it to go off into that mineral line to do quite a lot of damage really helps, but it's not going to get him back in this game. 125 to 176, 0 units being produced, even though he's got 2k floating right now. Getting 10 stalkers out on the field right now. This unit composition is not going to help him against Joshua. He's got a superior armed forces. He's got a lot of mules for some reason in his just as meat shields, I suppose. But those Marauders are going to absolutely cut through Sensualizer's force, which has wisely pulled back so they get a bit more of a concave. But in the end, Joshua's just going to rape this whole place. A lot of idle, non-blink stalkers, not able to dance out of the damage being done by Joshua, and 177 to 120 really tells you all of it. Probes being pulled just for a last-ditch effort to do just a little bit of damage. They just melt away. That Colossus is going to finally come out and do just a little bit of damage. Joshua doing the preemptive GG because he's a jerk. But Sensualizer knows he's lost. Like, I don't know why he's still in this game. That maybe he was hoping that Colossus did something, but that reinforcing swell of Marauders and Marines tells you everything about this. Sensualizer leaving the game without a GG, but that's okay because Joshua took care of that for him. I appreciate you guys watching this. If you have a comment, you could leave me a comment. If you have a game you want me to cast, you could PM me here or on Reddit. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary.